topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Tampa. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where we bring you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. What a great show. We have both shows today. We are going to be doing our wealth management show with Provise Management Group. And then in the second half of the show, we're going to be talking about personal injury. I was just saying before the show started, we got a call. I won't use his name, but we got a call from a gentleman who works for New York Life who listens to this show twice a month, which is nice. But what was really nice is that he was thanking us. He was saying what a great show is. And that's all because of our great expert, Ray Ferrara. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning, Steve, and happy Monday. Always good to start the week with you every other week.
We love talking to you. You know, Ray, you bring us so much great information. I love the way you present it. And, it just seems like every week new people are finding the show. Numbers are going up. Tell people about Provise.
Steve, Provise is a financial planning and investment management firm with the emphasis on financial planning, with offices in Clearwater and Tampa, Florida. And the reason we emphasize the financial planning part is that we view the investment management piece as an example, or insurance, or asset protection, or retirement planning, the list goes on and on. We see them all as subsets of the financial plan itself. And while plans have a lot of similarity, every situation with every client is different. And we tailor those financial plans to the individuals. We have 14 advisors, all of whom are CFP professionals, working with our clients and prospective clients. And the importance about being a CFP professional as opposed to just a financial advisor is that everybody has passed a rigorous exam, has continuing education requirements, but most importantly, we must always act as a fiduciary whenever providing financial advice. So we like to think of ourselves as a financial planning firm first, an investment management firm second, even though we are managing about $1.9 billion on behalf of around 1,200 clients, scattered over 34 states.
Ray, you've got to be so pleased on what you've created and all the people you've helped over the years.
Financial planning, Steve, is a very gratifying profession, at least as long as the client is following the plan. It can be frustrating when they don't follow the plan, but for the most part, people, do follow the plan. And financial planning is not a one-time event. It is an ongoing process. Every day, something in our life changes. And that doesn't mean you have to micromanage on a day-to-day basis, but it does mean that whatever your plan is has to be, flexible. And yes, we are blessed over the years. The many thousands of people that we have helped all around the country with their financial planning has been very gratifying. And it's really cool when 15, 20 years later, a client comes back and says, wow, it worked. And we remind them, yes, the planning doesn't guarantee success, but it certainly enhances the probability of success versus not having a written financial plan.
Ray, I understand the feds are going to be meeting in the next 2 days. Now, what's that going to mean for investors, and what should they be thinking about?
It's really getting boring to keep talking about the Fed. We've been doing this for 2 years, Steve, and here we are, 2 years to the month that interest rates started going up, and still speculating as to what's going to happen, and them being in the news. A couple of weeks ago, before the Senate committee, the Chairman Powell said that there were expected rate cuts in our future, not expected rate hikes. Then we ended up with a much more robust inflation report last week, which kind of tempered the enthusiasm for any rate cuts. At the beginning of the year, everybody thought this would be the meeting, this March meeting would be the meeting that they would start cutting, and that they would cut up to 6 times or 1.5%. Well, that didn't last very long, as you know. A lot of conversation about it being pushed off to perhaps the May meeting, or now the June meeting, and even the June meeting is becoming suspect. And I think it is fair to say that we are going to get a rate cut before the year is out. And I can't see them doing it any later than September, because going directly into the elections would look like they're being politically motivated at that point. So we've said that the earliest we saw any interest rate occurring this year would be June. I think it's safe to say that that's pushed off at least one more meeting to July. And then, of course, they'll be meeting in August, as they do every year, and there'll be a lot of speculation around that. But the long story short is the theme we have played to for the last 15 months is that interest rates will be higher for longer. We think that's still the case. We think the worst mistake would be for the Fed to start cutting rates too soon and watch inflation come back. I read that book back in the 70s when that's exactly what the Fed did. They tried to conquer it, raised rates, cut rates too soon, and then we got really super high inflation. We don't need that again. And so we're not looking for a rate cut at this point, as I say, till June at the absolute earliest, and probably more likely at the July meeting at this point.
Well, I got to tell you, I know we have been talking about it for a long time, but, it looks like hopefully something will happen this year, and we'll just wait and keep watching and listening to your shows to find out what that means. There's only now about 4 weeks left before taxes are due. A pun that you use, it's a taxing time. Is there still time to reduce taxes for 2023, Ray?
Absolutely, there is. Some things that can still be done if you qualify for an individual retirement account, an IRA from 2023. You will still be able to put in money up until the time you file your tax return, or April 15th. A great way to knock $6,000-$7,000 of income off to not be taxed, and to have Uncle Sam pay for part of your retirement plan. For those who would be eligible for this, they definitely should talk with their professional tax professional to see if they qualify, and if they do, something they definitely should not hesitate to do. The other thing that can be done is in looking at your taxes for the current year is in the medical area. If you qualify through work for a tax sheltered program with connected to your health insurance, you definitely should look at that. It also can be funded up until April 15th for 2023 and allow you to knock off another $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 perhaps off of your income. But by the way, I just want to say, Steve, the vast majority of people have not filed their taxes yet. So if you haven't, you shouldn't feel alone. But if you're like me, there's going to be an extension filed on April 15th because somehow I just never get around to getting it done on time. So we always do that extension. And if you do have an extension, don't forget you still have to pay what you think the tax burden is going to be for 2023 and your first payment for 2024. And then you'll have until October 15th to actually file your taxes.
What can a person learn from their tax returns to prepare for 2024?
Steve, thank you for that question. The time to start learning what you can do from this year is looking at your tax return for last year. Where did the different sources of income come from? For instance, if you are having to take money out of your IRA and you took it as ordinary income and had to pay taxes on it, you might consider not using it in that way, but to use it to pay money to a charity. This year in 24, you can pay up to $100,000 out of your IRA by having a check drawn directly in favor of a charity. It will not count as income, and you'll not be able to deduct it, but it will not count as income. And this is particularly important for those people who are using a standard deduction, because if they take the money out of their IRA as income and then turn around and perhaps to a place of worship or a qualified charity, they donate money, they're actually adding to their tax burden in a significant way. And it could even cause their Medicare their Medicare premiums to go up, because Medicare premiums are based on income. Another thing to look at is how well did you do with taking tax losses in November and December of last year to offset any gains that you might have had in the marketplace? Are you better off using tax-free instruments as opposed to taxable investments if you're in a very high tax bracket? It's very nice that many mutual funds, money market mutual funds, are paying near 5%. But if you're in the 40% tax bracket, or close to it, I should say, your net effect is you're only earning 3% after tax. And so you ought to be looking at other ways to shelter some of that income, either through tax-free bonds, perhaps investments into real estate, through real estate investment trust, et cetera, where tax favorable treatment is given to that income. So lots of things that you can do if you're in business for yourself, even more that you can do. And Steve, that's exactly why we offer everybody who listens to this show and anybody who calls in an opportunity to have a 1 hour, no cost, no obligation consultation with one of our certified financial planners, either in our Clearwater or Tampa office or by Zoom. For you to learn more about us, for us to learn more about you, to try to answer some of the questions that you have. So we always encourage our listeners to give us a call at 727-441-9022. That's 727-441-9022 to schedule their complimentary consultation. Or go to our website, which is provise.com, PROVISE.com, and you can learn more about us.
You know, Ray, I don't mean to change the subject. I keep hearing about these people who are winning these huge Mega Million Powerball lotteries right here in Florida. Publix is really coming out well. They've had 3 or 4 big winners, but what if these people who win these big lotteries, what's your advice to them to do? What are some of the first steps that they should do when they win the lottery?
Well, Steve, one of the best things that one can do is to immediately get together with their attorney, their CPA, and their financial planner when they're able to cash in on that sudden wealth that comes to them. You know, we're approaching $1 billion in both the Mega Millions and the Powerball right now, but you don't really end up with $1 billion for 2 reasons. The first is if you take a lump sum, you're probably going to end up with about 55 to 60% of the money. Now, $550 million, $600 million, Steve, is nothing to sneeze at. But
right.
the second way that goes down is that you're going to give 40% of that to Uncle Sam. So another $240 million is going to be paid in taxes. So you're left with a very paltry sum of money. Take 240 off of 600, and you've got $360 million net on that $1 billion that you won. But nonetheless, a phenomenal amount of money and sudden wealth for sure. And while it's very difficult to convince people that the money can run out, we have seen several lottery winners over the years who thought that money was just going to last forever and spent it foolishly, et cetera. There are so many good planning things that you can do with that money, but the first step is to get together with your financial planner, your attorney, and your CPA as a team, and talk about what to do and how to do it. Here in Florida, unlike other states where people can remain anonymous, people do not remain anonymous here, you will find that you have more relatives than you possibly could have imagined, Steve, if you win the lottery, or suddenly friends from a long time ago are suddenly going to show up, and some that weren't even friends a long time ago but want to become your friend today. You need people to help you say no to all of those folks that are going to come around to try to help you spend your money and invest your money. It's absolutely amazing if you had the kind of money we were just talking about, where you've got $360 million, and assuming that you were getting 3% interest on that tax-free, or let's say net after tax, you'd be in an awfully good spot, generating several $1 million of income yearly for yourself and to give away to charity and to other things. So again, step 1, first of all, protect the ticket. Step 2, once you realize you have it, get together with your financial planner, your CPA, and your attorney.
Kind of works the same way as these pro athletes when they get their first contract. I mean, it's just amazing, all the cousins that they didn't know they had come out of the woodwork.
Indeed. And it's funny that you bring up the professional athletes. I was thinking yesterday, watching the Players Championship, and Scotty Scheffler coming back from 5 strokes back and winning $4.5 million, and how lucky he was that he earned that while he was here in Florida, because he doesn't have to pay a state income tax on it because we don't have a state income tax. And
Right.
one of the challenging thing for all professional athletes is the number of tax returns that they have to do, because wherever they earn the money is where they have to pay the tax. You look at baseball players with baseball season just coming up starting in another week. Actually, it may even start this week with I think a game over in Japan. And the many different cities that they play in throughout the year, and all of the taxes that they have to pay to those respective states. It's a real burden.
What about Canadian, Ray? What happens?
Same thing there. They go up to Toronto, Montreal, Calgary in hockey. Taxes have to be paid. Taxes have to be paid there as well.
Wow. And they figure it on a per game basis?
It is exactly right. If you take baseball with 162 games, I think, during the course of a season, you take your salary divided by 162, and each game that you play, that's what you earned, or each, and whichever city you're in, that's the amount that you have to pay in state income tax, or the income that you have to pay state income tax.
Unbelievable. They get their hands on everything. Ray, I wanted to, we've got about 3 minutes left, and what you've built, your company, there's a lot of people out there that are maybe looking for a second opinion. Tell us how you started Provise, how to become one of the largest registered investment advisory in the firm's country.
Well, Steve, when we started out, I never visualized what Provise has become. I guess as an entrepreneur, I just wasn't thinking big enough. But Provise started in August of 1986. So we are closing in on our 38th anniversary in a few months. And it's all happened because of two things. First of all, we've always had a great team at Provise. And that's the number one key to our success, is that the client always comes first. We're always about service. We're always about making sure that the clients are number one. Number two are our clients. We have been blessed with some great clients over the years, and our retention of clients, because of the good advice and good service that we provide, is extremely high, running in the upper 90s on average over the last 10 years. We continue to grow one client at a time. And our best source of new business comes from referrals from our existing clients, because they're satisfied and they're out to dinner with their friends and they say, who are you using for investments or financial planning? And they mention Provise, or it comes from professionals like attorneys, CPAs, even people in the healthcare field will refer clients to us, their Medicare supplement type of policies, long-term care, et cetera. Recognize what we can do to help their clients, just like they can help us with our clients in those particular areas. So again, we offer a 1-hour free consultation, complimentary, Tampa office, Clearwater, Zoom, your choice. Get to know us better. Let us learn about you. And if there's a way we can help, second opinion, first opinion, either one doesn't make any difference. We're here to assist. And our number is 727-441-9022, 727-441-9022, or go to our website, provise.com, provise.com.
Well, Ray, we love having you as part of the show, and I think you've been with us now several years, and We are so lucky to have you, and we'll see you again in several weeks.
Yes, sir. Look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks. In the meantime, be safe and be well.
Thank you, Ray. It's Ray
Have a great
Ferrara.
day.
He's ProVise Management Group. We're going to go to break. When we come back, we have our next expert.
And we are back with the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV with your hosts, Steve-O, Sophia, and their expert guests.
And we are back. I told you when we first started this morning, we've got some great experts. Our next show is such an easy show to do. We're talking about injuries. It could be from an auto accident. It could be from a slip and fall. There's many reasons why you need representation. But what I'm so happy about is we got two of the finest attorneys in Florida with Zervos and Calta. And I just want to say good morning, ladies.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning. Is my camera off?
We can't see you, but we can hear you.
Oh, no.
She just woke up, right?
No, I mean, it says my camera is connected.
We'll see if we can get you on. Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Doing well. How are you, Steve?
We're doing good. I got to tell you that we are so glad to have you. And I think this is just such an important area of law when it comes to injury. And I hope with this show that more people will stop trying to handle it themselves and get an attorney that it just may. I've seen so many examples, Lauren, that people who try to handle it themselves thought they're going to save a little money.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work that way.
I will tell you, Steve, I just had a new client last week come in. It was a 3-car accident. So it was the what we call the tortfeasor, the person that caused the accident, crashes into a middle car, pushes that car into my client. And the middle car wound up settling within a day or so for the policy limits. They were limited policy limits of $10,000 in bodily injury coverage. And come to find out, when I send out my letters of rep and I speak to the adjuster on it, this person may have been in the course and scope of his employment, which means that the employer would also have responsibility in the accident under a theory called vicarious liability, because he was working on a mission for the employer. The employer bears responsibility under Florida law for any accident that the employee gets in. And now we're looking at possibly much more coverage than 10. And the poor person in the middle who didn't get an attorney signed away their rights for $10,000.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty significant injuries from what I understand. So yeah, it's very important to get an attorney.
You know, Lauren, there's so many different areas of when you say personal injury law, there are so many areas that you cover that, I mean, even dog bites that people might not think about. Tell people what the different areas of personal injury include. Well,
it's car accidents, motorcycle accidents, trucking accidents, bicycle accidents, pedestrians by a car. It includes dog bites. It includes slip and falls, trip and falls. Those are what we call premise liability cases, where you injure yourself on the property of another, and your injury was due to the negligence of the property owner or the person who maintains the property. There's medical malpractice cases. There's wrongful death cases where people die as a result of somebody else's negligence. There's products liability, where you're injured from the use of a product in a case. It runs the gambit. Almost anything where you've been hurt and not through your own fault qualifies as personal injury law.
There is so much construction work being done in Florida. What about construction injuries? Do you find many of those?
Some those usually fall under premise liability, where you're hurt at a resort, where you're hurt in a home, where you're hurt in a restaurant. It may be due to the construction or construction going on. I can tell you, I think we spoke about this a few weeks ago. Angela and I are handling a wrongful death case where the roadway was under massive construction for years. It was a road widening project, and there were temporary traffic signals, and nobody checked the battery backup, and it wound up in a car with 5 people, 2 children in it, being struck by a tractor trailer, and there were 2 fatalities in the car. The construction work being done on the road in part.
I just, I guess it was Thursday of last week, we got a text from a listener who listens to this show. And I think we've talked about this before, but it's starting to come up now. Wrongful death when it comes to COVID. Are you getting any cases like that at all?
No, that's very, very, very difficult, if not impossible, to prove. There's actually law in effect that prevents you in most, if not all, circumstances from bringing a claim, because he is. There's my beautiful partner. Come here. That camera wasn't working. Oh, the other way. Which? There you go.
Angel, maybe it's out of film.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a Monday morning. Things like this only happen to me.
Good, we got both of you. Angela, I'm going to let you tell everybody about your. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to finish up that you really can't bring claims for COVID because it was so new, and so we went into territory that had never been seen before in terms of this plague-like disease, I'm going to call it, that you can't bring a claim for them for any wrongful deaths resulting from COVID.
I think it's because, Lauren, there's a lot of information coming out now. I just saw the other day, even Fauci, they asked him, how come you were making people wear masks? What was the science behind it? And it turned out there was no science behind it. So they're starting to find out things about COVID, and maybe that's the reason why we're starting to get questions about it, about is there negligence?
Just so you know, Angela and I had gotten a bunch of questions when it first started, and they didn't know how to treat it, and people were passing away. I mean, there's no downplaying the significance of what COVID was or still is, if not treated properly. I think the part of the problem was nobody knew how to treat it because we had never seen it before.
Right. Exactly. So, Angela, we're going to let you tell us about the firm.
Oh, wonderful. Well, Steve, I have been practicing trial attorney since '97, and Lauren since I believe '94, and we both started out doing criminal work. Lauren was a prosecutor, I was a defense attorney, and then we transitioned into civil practice, trial practice, and focused almost exclusively on personal injury. We both worked for other firms and made a decision in late 2016 that we wanted to partner together and open our own practice. So Zervos and Kelt has been practicing corporation statewide throughout the state of Florida since early 2017. But between the two of us, we have 60 years. I can't even believe I'm saying that, but 60 years combined personal injury experience in and out of the courtroom. So we love what we do.
Well, it's very obvious. I was wondering, once a lawsuit is finally filed, is there any chance a case can still be settled?
Sure.
I'm going to say, Steve, that the majority of cases, upwards of 90%, will settle after a lawsuit is filed. And I say that with a caveat that I think in my experience, and I'll let Lauren chime in on it, but in my experience, these cases will settle by the insurance companies when they feel threatened enough. And so I think that all has to do with the experience of the attorney that's filing the lawsuit, how they handle the case. And so if you're an attorney who has a reputation of always settling and never going to court, I think you have less of a chance of the case settling, and the defense attorney and the insurance company saying, look, let's fight this guy or this girl because they've never been in court before. We'll take it all the way. With Lauren and I, with our experience, oftentimes we have to file a lawsuit, pull the trigger, and prepare as if we're going to go to trial. And then I'm going to say over 90% of the time, those cases will settle, sometimes the week before trial.
For amounts of money that the insurance company said they would never pay pre-suit.
Sometimes people forget how much money these insurance companies have. I was thinking the other day, I went to a chiropractor, and the first question they asked me was, how much insurance do I have? And I was wondering, well, don't they need to find out what's wrong with my back first to decide how much insurance I have? But it came down to so they would know how much, I guess, I needed to be treated. And I was thinking, you know what? What about a jury? Are they entitled to know how much insurance the driver or owner has?
Unfortunately, no, Steve. They don't even know that the insurance company is involved unless it's a claim against your own insurance company for uninsured motorist coverage. So if you and I get into an accident and I sue you because I'm hurt, it's your name on the lawsuit. If you're insured by State Farm or Liberty Mutual or USAA or Allstate, they never get mentioned throughout the course of the lawsuit. The jury doesn't know that you have insurance coverage. I will say there have been some law firms out there that have done some commercials saying, you know what juries never know? That anytime we bring a lawsuit against Joe Blow, there's insurance there to go after. And because juries aren't allowed to be told that. The thought process behind that is they're afraid that if they know that it's an insurance company and not Steve O that's responsible for the damages, they'll just hike up the verdict. But in all honesty, it usually happens in reverse, that because they don't know there's insurance, they hike down, if that's even a word, they hike down the verdicts because they feel bad for you. Because here you are, Steve O, running your radio show, going to work every day, working hard and trying to make and save your money. And here is Lauren coming along and suing you for injuries when we wake up with aches and pains every day, and nobody pays us money as jurors. So no, they're not allowed.
Well, I don't quite understand how insurance runs here in Florida. Because if you have an accident, it doesn't matter whose fault it is, your insurance company still has to pay for it. Is that correct?
Well, in Florida, you're required to have only 2 types of coverage in order to be able to drive your car on the roads. And I'm going to talk about that in a second. But what you're referring to is what's called personal injury protection. It's also called PIP for short, or no fault. And that means that no matter whose fault the accident is, you've got a minimum of, and usually that's pretty much it, unless you buy additional coverage, but you'll have a minimum of $10,000 in medical. And Lauren and I and some other attorneys we've spoken to think that really was put in place to protect the hospitals throughout the state of Florida. I think that the hospitals lobbied and said, listen, if there's a car accident, we need to make sure if we're treating these people, we're going to get paid. because there's a lot of people
Right.
who don't have health insurance. So that no fault is really required, no matter whose fault the accident is, yours or somebody else's. You've got to go through your PIP to get your first $10,000 of medicals paid.
Now, what happens in the case if a jury does not award, say, the full amount of your medical bills? Who pays those bills?
I'll let Angela answer that because this is a passion of hers.
Yeah, well, these defense attorneys will come into the courtroom, of course, given the ammunition by the insurance company, and they'll argue to a jury that these bills that the plaintiff incurred are unreasonably high, they're ridiculous, you shouldn't give the plaintiff all of the medicals, these doctors will agree to reduce. But ultimately, in the end, the jury needs to understand that nobody has any authority over medical providers to tell them what they have to accept for treatment that they render. So if a jury comes back in a case of ours, let's say hypothetically, and our client has $50,000 in outstanding medical bills, and the jury comes back and says, yeah, you know what, we agree with the defense attorney that $25,000 is reasonable. Well, guess what? The plaintiff's still going to owe that other $25,000. So, it's kind of misleading to the jury. I think that a lot of these jurors who reduce medical bills are thinking that if they come back with a lower amount, that's what the doctor is going to have to accept. And that's just not the case.
Talk about adding salt to the wound.
Yeah, really. I got to tell you that I don't understand when it comes to especially auto accidents or slip and falls that everybody does not hire an attorney, because it's not like you have to write a check when they come sit down with you. It's done on a contingency basis. And I don't think people quite understand that.
Yeah, we don't get paid unless we recover money for you. If we don't recover any money for you, we don't get paid. It's not like you go in to get a will drafted or a divorce and you have to put up a retainer. There's no upfront fee. Our fee is strictly contingent upon your recovery. So there's nothing to lose by coming in.
And also, if they retain your services, they are at least now on a level playing field, which they are not if they try to handle it themselves.
Well, Steve, yes, a lot of people think that they can handle it themselves. And I think that a lot of them fall prey to the insurance adjusters befriending them. Let me help you. Let me help cover your medical expenses. Let me explain the process to you. This is what these adjusters do. And I think that they lure, for lack of a better word, the injured person into a false sense of security, thinking that, well, this person's going to help me. I can give you an example. Years ago, it's probably in my 30s when this happened. A lady came to me and had a $40,000 offer. That's a lot of money. And when I met with her and she told me she had a $40,000 offer, that was probably one of the highest offers that I'd ever seen made by an adjuster, personally to somebody. So it raised a red flag in my head. Ultimately, after I took the case and I litigated it, I found out that her injuries were worth far more than that. And the case ended up settling for over $400,000. So, word to the wise out there, always consult with an attorney, because they really do know a whole lot more about this process and the tricks and trades of the insurance company and how to protect you.
So we've told people why it's important to have an attorney. Let's tell people why it's important that they sign with your firm to represent them.
Because at Zervos and Kauza, you meet personally with an attorney. You will either meet with myself or Angela. You won't be pawned off to an assistant, a case manager, an investigator, a paralegal, a secretary. You meet with the attorney. You hire an attorney, you meet with the attorney. We read through every single medical record that comes through this office personally. We don't farm it out for someone else to do it. We handle each case. Our hands are on every file in this office. We schedule phone conferences with you that if we don't hear from you, you will hear from us. We treat everybody like it's family. Once you come in and hire Zervos and Calta, you are now part of the Zervos and Calta family. And when you couple that with the experience that Angela and I have through the years, I was admitted in New York in 92, came down here in 95. Angela's been practicing since 97, I think you said. And when you combine our experience in personal injury, you're getting decades upon decades of experience in your corner fighting for you.
Yeah, I think that is so important. I deal with a lot of attorneys across the country with our other shows. And I got to tell you, some of them are like factories. I mean, you don't even meet the attorneys. You meet with several other people. That's what I love about your firm, that they actually work with you from the start.
Steve, there's a whole lot of truth to that. I think that a lot of people think that bigger is better. And there's a lot of big law firms out there. But what you don't know is that if you go to one of those law firms, that they decide which attorney they're going to assign to you. Some of them are just right out of law school, who don't know anything. And then that person bumps the case to somebody else and to somebody else. I had a call last week from a potential client who had hired a larger firm and wanted me to take over the case. And it was 16 months ago that her accident happened. And so this law firm had been handling the case for 16 months. And she said she was on her fourth attorney and she didn't know who the attorney was, but she was waiting for them to call her and the case wasn't moving. And she asked if I would take it. And unfortunately, I passed on that. And I said that, one of the problems was I really didn't want to clean up somebody else's mess. And for almost a year and a half of somebody else's litigation. And so, sometimes making those decisions by going to a big firm is detrimental because you don't get
Absolutely
the attorney that you want. They decide who you're going to get. And you don't have that one-on-one that you need and that you're entitled to.
Size only matters with diamonds.
You're right. This show goes by so fast. Let's give everybody who are actually watching it, or who are listening, let's give them your phone number and also give them your website address.
Our phone number is 727-937-3171. And our website is www.zervosinjurylaw.com. And we encourage people with questions or concerns, just give us a call. We'll hop on the phone with you.
Can someone reach you over the weekend?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
24/7.
That's not the norm. Listen, we love you, ladies. Thank you so much for being part of the Ask the Expert show, and you'll be back with us again in 2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
Thank
Take care,
you.
Steve.
You
Bye-bye.
too, Angela. And they have got such a great firm. And, their show always goes by so fast. If you own a business and you'd like to become one of our experts, you can give us a call at 954-336-3767. And we would be more than happy to have you on our show. That's it for us today. We'll see you again next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.